This is Heather coming to you live from Get Me Some Green, and I'm super excited today. Our coffee talk is with an amazing woman who has a wealth of information about plant stem cells, healing energy, and I can't even say enough words about how excited I am to have her here today. For those of you watching, as usual, this is being recorded live on Facebook, but you will be able to find this up on our YouTube page, and we're going to take snippets and put it up on Instagram as well. But without further ado, I don't want to take up too much time introducing. Most of you know me, know our show, so let me introduce you to Jen. So Jen, let's hear a little bit more about your history and tell me about you. I'm so excited to meet you. This is the first time I've met Jen, guys. So we're going to have a lot of introductory questions because this will not be the first time she's with us, and it won't be the last.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Jen Payer, and I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you.
It's great. So tell me a little bit about yourself and where you came and how you evolved into working with plant stem cells.
Okay, so I spent 29 years in financial services. Talk about left brain as left brain as possible. And back in 2008, I had a complete meltdown. I was working 20 hours a day, if that's even possible, sleeping about 3 hours a night.
Been there, done that.
You know how that is. And I had bronchitis, pneumonia, shingles, tachycardia, and mono, finally diagnosed with chronic fatigue. And at that point, I knew if I didn't make massive life changes that I wouldn't be here. It was that serious. And so I was really like seeking something, some kind of answer in my life. And I've always been a seeker. I have a lot of books. And this book, Hands of Light, fell on my head. And Hands of Light was a book written by Barbara Brennan, who was a NASA scientist. And it was all about transformation and healing. And so in a weekend, I decided to go to the school.
We'll put that book in the link later. So in case you miss it this morning, we'll go ahead and add that.
And so I ended up going to this 4-year healing school. And during that healing time in my life, I really looked at what was in my way. And that's when I really started connecting with plants.
Now, what do you mean by healing school? Describe that journey for me.
Yeah, half of the school was personal transformation, meaning what is in your way stopping you from living like your best life ever. And then the other half was learning different hands-on healing modalities. So things like spiritual surgeries, things like clearing trauma from the body. Reiki is something you can get in a few weekends. This was 2,400 hours of school. So I actually have a degree in finance and in the healing sciences. So I walked out with a degree.
I know people think I'm crazy too when I tell them my educational background. They're like, "You are what?" I'm like, "It's okay.
Yeah,
just wrap your mind around." So I want to touch base on spiritual surgeries because this is something I've been learning more about, and I know some of you out there think it's a crazy theory, but Dr. Joe Dispenza has actually done a great deal of research on spiritual surgeries and has witnessed them firsthand, and I've actually seen live videos. Spiritual surgeries don't happen a lot here in the U.S., sadly, but they are performed quite a bit overseas, especially in China. There are a team of doctors that literally are energy healers and will work over someone that needs surgery, and you can see live cellular repair happening. If I didn't see it with my own eyes, I'd be sitting here just as confused as many of you, but I've had the opportunity to go overseas and sit behind glass and witness something like this happen firsthand, and it's pretty amazing stuff, but it is pretty rare. So were you able to witness some things like that during your training as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible.
Astounding. Yeah, and I'm a big believer that our bodies know how to heal, and that just by bringing energy, bringing light to the body can remember what it's designed to do. I mean, we're designed to heal ourselves at the end of the day.
I think people forget that we're electrical.
Yes.
We are an electrical being. We have frequencies. So when we just disassociate ourselves with that natural order, that's when disease tends to happen, I've noticed. So it's interesting when I talk to people about meditation, they're like, how could that possibly heal my headache? Because your frequency is off. It's like, think of your body, you guys, like a guitar. If all your chords are in tune, but the C chord, it's not going to play music. It's going to sound off. And eventually, the other chords are going to tune to the C chord to kind of mimic and make up for that mistake. And this is just natural balance. So when something in your body is off, and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, everything starts to cycle in its place to accommodate for that. And that's where we start seeing a lot of disease in our lifetimes. So when we talk about this spiritual healing and this energy healing, all we're really talking about is that electrical current coming in sync. Unfortunately, in our society, in the American language, we don't have the right words to use to describe this healing, because these modalities were created long before we were. So when we have to, as Americans, have to describe this healing with people, we have to use energy and light. But if you listen to Sanskrit or some of these more ancient languages, they have words that really describe this much better than we can. So try to get past the verbiage and try to understand the message when we talk about energy healing in the way of electrical current healing. I mean, think of it. They can put a little pulse ox on your finger and it reads your heartbeat. That's electricity, guys. It's electricity. So it's really important for us to understand. Have you ever brushed your hair and go like this and like a whole strand of it comes up? It's because your body's emitting that electricity. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about today and how important it is. But we're gonna, I mean, there's even more. We're talking about how plants relate to that too. So where did you go from that process after you learned all these things?
Yeah, so from that process, I started studying essential oils. And the amazing thing about essential oils, I see essential oils as kind of the heart of the plant. So it's the essence of the plant. I actually call them essences, not essential oils. And I really started working with them, and then this amazing thing happened. I started hearing them speak to me, and I know that's very, very strange for many people, but I started channeling the plants, meaning I would sit down with somebody like Heather, and Heather would say, "Hi, how are you doing?" And all of a sudden I would start hearing the plants say, "I can help, I can help, I can support." And so, I have this very beautiful relationship with the plants where I'm in communion with them, and I trust the messages I get from them. And they, I see them as our allies. They're helping us on this evolutionary path that we're on of a change in consciousness, a change in health. We're coming back to that knowing, again, that we can heal ourselves, that we are in charge of our own destiny.
Knowing. I want to tap into that. So Jen is not crazy. She does not hear things. But have you ever walked into a room and you can sense something happened there? Like, how many of you have walked into a house or a room of someone and you can just feel like, whoa, a fight just happened in here. This doesn't feel safe to me. Or how about if you're sitting at your desk and you know someone walked in the room behind you and you haven't turned your head at all? I know all of you have experienced that. That's kind of what Jen is talking about. It's not that plants are saying, "Hey Jen, take more mint." That's not what's happening. It's that she feels like, "Oh, wait a second, you know what would help them? I think St. John's wort would be helpful for them." Or that's what she's talking about when she hears them. It's a knowing, it's an in-tuneness where all of that outer noise and that program that we play in our head, gotta do this, gotta get the kids, gotta get dressed, gotta go to the store, gotta do this. When that shuts down and you just kind of lean into what is trying to be told to you from the outside, that energy healing, that's what she's talking about. She's not crazy. There are no voices. So when we say listening, that's kind of what we're talking about. So when you went through this journey, was it freaky at first when you started? Because I know for me, when I started feeling pulled towards things with people, I was like, that's weird. But I ended up being spot on every time.
Yes.
So, and I do that a lot with the CBD and supplements we work with. I can start talking to someone, and all of a sudden I know, oh, you need this hormone. Right? And I'll even scan them. We've got some medical equipment that allows me to scan them and be like, all right, am I right here? I'm almost spot on. 98% of the time I'm spot on. So I can assume for you it's very similar with the plant stem cells.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
when did you discover that this was a gift you have for people?
I definitely discovered it in working with the essences. It's been 12 years now where I've been working, I call it communing with them, really being in deep relationship with them. And then about a year and a half ago, I was visiting a friend in Dallas, and her husband's a doctor, and he came in and he brought one of these, and he said, "Oh my gosh, Jen, I've got to tell you about these things." And as soon as he put the bottle in front of me, I had this electricity go through my body, and I was like, wow, I've got to pay attention to that. That's something. It's information. The way I look at it is information.
Right.
And so he started telling me about his training class in Hawaii that was coming up, in January of 2019, so a year ago. And it was for doctors, and it was specifically a training about these plant stem cells. And I just had this knowing again that I had to go to this class. I'm not a doctor, and so I called the owner and asked if he had room for me to come to the class. And so I went to the class, and it was fascinating because a lot of it was about the chemistry of plants. So plants have chemotypes, they have different chemical components in them, and that's what allows them to do what they do. And so I knew a lot of the chemistry of the plants from my work with the essences. So I really felt like I was where I was supposed to be. And on the last day of the class, the owner mentioned he was going to be selling the company. And that same energy came through my body.
You just knew it.
I just knew it. And again, I knew nothing, and yet I knew everything in that moment. And so I decided at that point, I flew home and I worked with him for a couple of months, and I started seeing massive changes in my health from blood work, from different tests that I had done. And so
that's really it. And I try to explain this to people because we do deal with a lot of modalities that question medicine here in the States. Like we challenge that status quo quite a bit. And I'm not going to say that there's not a place for medicine the way we see it today. There absolutely is. But there's other things too that play a role. Things that we can do first, things that we can try first. I kind of consider man-made medicine an extreme. When you've tapped into nature and there's nothing there from her, now we can start diving into other things, because there are situations, and I get that, but there are situations where natural health is really, really important and could be the first thing that we look at. So I try to be really cautious when we talk to people. We're not saying take this in place of this. We're saying try this and see if over time it can take place of this, because our bodies are designed to heal. And it's really important that people understand that. So sometimes, and not all the time, when we're prescribed a medication, it's like a masking tool. It takes care of the symptom, but it doesn't take care of the problem. So for instance, if you have a headache, they give you an acetaminophen. It takes care of the symptom, the pain, but what's causing the headache in the first place is still not being addressed properly. So what we're talking about is nature's medicine that dives right to what's causing your pain. And neither of us will ever say there's not a place for both. We just choose to start in a more natural setting, then go straight to pharmaceuticals. So let's just preface that. I always try to let people know I'm not going to tell you stop taking all your farms. I'm not saying that. I'm saying perhaps a good conjunction or marriage of the two could benefit you greatly.
Yeah, and if there's one thing you take away today, actually pharmaceutical medicine is the alternative medicine. It's been around less than 200 years. Nature has been around forever, and the use of nature for healing has been, around the Chinese, the Native Americans, they hold the heartbeat of the planet. And so nature's medicine has been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It really is the original medicine of our planet. And we have lost touch.
And as a matter of fact, all pharmaceuticals are based off of what was found in natural medicine in the first place.
Derived from
But
nature.
we've changed it over time. So coming back to that, think of it. How good do you feel when you eat really healthy for a day? How good do you feel when you have an amazing meal? And I'm not talking how good does it taste, because we all know Ben & Jerry's tastes amazing. I'm talking about how you feel inside, how much energy you have. So plant medicine is really important, and cultures for years have just been studying it. Look at Egyptians talked about using hemp, using cocoa. I think everyone thinks chocolate. We don't understand the benefits of true raw cocoa. It's so medicinal and ceremonial. So that's the kind of stuff we're talking about today. Try to reintroduce you to naturalized medicine, not change your diet in an entire way, but just consider alternatives or consider the original source of what you're currently taking.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So as we dive into these, what is the difference between a plant stem cell, which is what we have here, and in plant essence? Because I think that was a big question for some of the people as we started introducing these new product lines into our business.
Yeah, so a plant stem cell is the initial growth on a plant before it becomes a bud, a leaf, a stem. So it's the very new beginning of the growth. And if you think about it, when a baby's born, they're full of light, right? You see a baby and you just see the light. So these buds actually are the light from the plant. They contain all of the genetic information from the plant. And, one of the things I'm passionate about is sustainability and the earth. So what I love about these is they are picked in the wild in Italy in the mountains, and they never pick more than 20% of the new growth because they don't want to harm the plant. So if you pick more than that, then you can harm the future growth of the plant. And so, there's a lot of intentionality, but it really is the pure light, the new growth on a plant. And it, like I said, it contains all of the genetic information of the plant. It contains all of the light. So it's phytotherapy. It's pure light coming into the body. And these have 11 phytohormones in them that are what give them the ability to regenerate parts of the body, to clean out and detoxify the body in a big, big way. And one of the things that I've really studied is the embryonic growth and the adult growth, because there are adult plant stem cells. But similar to people, as you age, you accumulate more stuff. You accumulate heavy metals in your body, etc. Plants do the same thing.
They're leaching it from
They're leaching it from the earth and what's happening. And so by picking it when it's just coming in, you're getting that pure, clean goodness and light versus an adult plant that has weathered and, kind of accumulated.
I mean, the same thing goes for the foods you eat in the grocery store, guys. Who's not tasted the difference between like a fresh farmed piece of produce and something bought at the grocery store? It's like night and day. You buy a tomato at a farmer's market or pick it from your garden. You buy a tomato at the grocery store. I challenge you guys to do this. And maybe in your region, tomatoes aren't in season. Grab a different vegetable or fruit. If you have the ability to go to a farmer's market or you have something grown, or you can wait till the spring. Take a tomato from a grocery store. Take a tomato directly from a farm. Cut them both. Do a blind taste test. You can really taste the difference between the two, because over time it starts to protect itself. It degrades and breaks down, and so do a lot of the nutrients in it. So same thing with
Exact
this.
same thing. Yes, absolutely. So what else would you like to share?
When you talk about plant stem cells, there's a lot of information in here. How do they compare to human plant stem cells? Because I know right now a lot of people talk about stem cells human, but there's people like plant. I don't understand. How can we better explain what those differences are to people and what the benefits are? Obviously, I would have something from a plant over another human being's stem cells put into me, because I don't know, I have genetically that doesn't feel like a good disposition for me. Mm-hmm. But can you describe what that difference and challenges for people?
Yeah, and I just want to re-emphasize what you said, Heather, because that's exactly right. So human stem cells, you are getting somebody else's DNA, and our bodies don't recognize that as our own, and so the body will then naturally try to kick it out. It'll produce antibodies. These stem cells are very compatible with the human body, and so they don't create that reaction in the human body where the human body says, wait a minute, I don't recognize this as a foreign substance in my body. So the body actually will absorb it and take it in. So I know a lot of people who would like to try human stem cells won't, because of that reason that you just talked about. Is there's something about, and I studied this at the Barbara Brennan School of Healing, that when somebody gets a transplant, they have to be on some type of medication, because the body will keep trying to kick it out, because it's human tissue.
Well, they boost their cortisol levels. I was reading about that. They actually force people into fight or flight situations, so that their body won't reject the organ.
Yes.
And what I was reading recently, there was a study put out by Harvard talking about this, so you can actually go and look at it. They were talking about how the cortisol levels in these people were off the charts, and they actually ended up going into adrenal failure shortly after having the organs transplanted into their body. And over time, their bodies do accept it, but there's always a little electrical disconnect, because it's not quite the same. It would be the equivalent of you taking a tire that's meant for an SUV and putting it on a Toyota Camry. Will your car drive? Over time, will the rubber wear down and they're the same size? Yes, and I know for those mechanics out there, you're all going, oh my God, this is a horrible analogy, but I'm trying to paint a picture for you. The rubber might wear down, but it's still not the right wheel for that car. It'll drive, but it's not the right wheel for that car. So when you start putting DNA in your body that's not your own, your body always has this resistance to it, if you will. So plant stem cells are different because our bodies use plants as fuel.
As fuel, exactly.
So there are thousands of different versions of stem cells. How do we educate people on which ones work best for them? Like, where can they grasp that information? I know you're dumping into my brain a little, but I'm by no means going to be able to replace the knowledge you have. So how can we start teaching people about these modalities and how to properly use them? Because these are droppers, guys. So for those of you that can see it, they're just droppers. It's just a liquid. So one, how do we go about using them? And two, how do we know which ones are best for us?
Yep. So just to give you a little bit of background about what is actually in the bottle. So the new growth is picked, it's macerated in organic grape alcohol. And the reason we use organic grape alcohol is because corn alcohol, which is often used, is mostly genetically modified. So we use organic grape alcohol, which is more expensive, but it's clean and pure, and then there's glycerin to stabilize it. So those are the three things in. One of the other things that's really fascinating about these is they're spagyric. And spagyric is an old ancient term. It means they take the plant material that's been utilized and then they burn it. And then they take the ash from it and they put it into the next batch. So that's how this genetic piece passes. It's a homeopathic kind of approach. And so that is in here as well. And you can study herbs. There's a lot of information you can Google. A plant, let's say rosemary, for example. Rosemary is known for, hair and skin. It's known to clean the liver. It's known for memory. So rosemary in a plant stem cell does all that stuff, but it does it 100 times more because it's got this light coming into the body as well. And I'll just share 2 tests that I've had where I've seen with the blood work massive changes. So I'm in my mid-50s. My father had a heart attack at 50. And so my doctor said, you know what, Jen, let's do this test that looks at the 4 chambers of your heart, that looks at the arteries to see how much plaque you've accumulated, just to make sure you're not at risk. And I was like, all right, why not? So I did this test. He actually called me, which usually they just send you a note. He called me and he said, this doesn't make any sense to me. And I said, what's that? He said, you have 0 plaque in your arteries. And he said, I would expect that of a 17-year-old, not of a woman in her mid-50s. And by the way, I love butter. I'm just going to say that. I don't eat dairy or anything like that, but I eat a lot of fats. So even I was shocked that I had 0 plaque. So that's amazing. And then the other thing is I'm a cancer survivor. I had metastasized cancer. And, I have 0 circulating tumor cells in my body. That's another thing that the doctors were shocked by. Somebody who had cancer in her lymphatic system, I should have some evidence.
Massive. Yeah,
some evidence, and I have 0. And so I have seen the science, which, I don't ever discount because I think science is important. But I also know how I feel. I know how my energy levels have changed. I look 10 years younger than I did 2 years ago before I started using these. My skin has changed. So many things have changed. So I had a lot of heavy metals in my body. My heavy metal numbers have come down significantly.
Now, how do plant stem cells help that? Because I know a lot of people are starting to understand heavy metals, and you get heavy metals just by breathing. Okay, so, and when we have these talks, I know sometimes it can be overwhelming and people get a little frightened. This is just our world. There's just a lot of toxicity in the world. Toxicity is, we've demonized that word. Toxic. And everyone thinks of like this like toxic type of venture. Toxins are just foreign negative bodies that enter your body. It doesn't mean toxic as in it's going to kill you. Sometimes it does, but all the word toxic really means is a foreign negative entity that enters your body. Sometimes it's heavy metals, but we need some metals in our body to balance. But when we have too much, that abundance of them can cause problems. How many of you have ever had a glass of water and drank so much you jump up and down and your stomach swishes? That's a toxic level of water. You see what I mean? So when we use the word toxic, please don't take it as gospel, take it as just too much for your body. But heavy metals, you can get them from food. A lot of times we get them from the water we drink, just from the pipe lining, little pieces. I mean, think of when you see a river and you see a rock. The rock that's facing the current is always smooth, but it's rough on the other side. That's what happens when water runs through the pipes of our home. So we're taking little pieces of that pipe every time we drink water. So you can't avoid getting heavy metals into your body, but what you can do is help your body manage and dispel them properly. And that's what you use these for.
Yes, absolutely.
And how would plant stem cells help eliminate heavy metals from your body?
So because of these juvenile phytohormones, that stem cells contain 13 of them, and those juvenile phytohormones, which no other part of a plant has, by the way, they actually come in and they pull that out of the body. So the one thing I've learned about plants in all my years of working with them is plants are balancers. So you can actually use the same plant for somebody who has high blood pressure as somebody who has low blood pressure. So the plants have, energy, just like we were talking about at the beginning here. Everything is energy. So the plants have an energy and they have an intelligence. And when they come into the body, you will never overdose on a plant. You will never overdose on a plant. Nobody's ever died from taking too much essential oil. Nobody's ever died from taking too many plant stem cells.
Thank you for saying that, because I try to tell people all the time, you cannot overdose on CBD. And that's one of the things people, can I overdose? You cannot overdose on plants. It's impossible. But when we man-make some of these supplements, then we can overdose. So be cautious of that. There's levels there, but when you're taking it in its organic, purest form, your body knows what to do. It'll expel it as necessary. But I always joke with people, I'm like, when we're talking about things that pull things out of the body, I go, think of a little kid. You know how little kids like to steal stuff? They're like, ha ha ha, they'll take your scarf and they'll run around the room. Think of these juvenile elements in these plants as just that, a little kid that likes to take her mom's shoes and hide them, or likes to take the blanket off of you and run around the house. That's really what they're doing. They're taking those things that are seemingly out of place and helping your body dispel them properly.
Yes.
Is that a great way
That's
to
a
word
great
it?
way to say it. And, we're just now studying genomics and things like that. So these actually work on a genetic level. So where there's genetic mutation in the body, they actually come in and they clean up that genetic mutation. And I would argue that every single one of us carry a toxic burden, because our water, our food, our air, everything is kind of over the top right now. This is not 50 years ago. 50 years ago you could eat an apple and get nutrients from it. Now today you have to eat 10 apples to get the same nutritional value as an apple a year ago, because of the soil degeneration that we've had over the last 50 years. So, it's a natural, for me, it's a natural requirement for me to maintain and continue to keep my body clean. I'm a clean eater, and I still had significant heavy metal in my body. Now, one of the things, this is off topic, but look at your drinking ware. I had a lot of drinking ware from China, and China is notorious for having lead, and I have really high lead in my body. So when I got rid of all of my drinking ware, I started doing these, cleaned my body, I have not reaccumulated lead in my body. And so, I'm really happy about that, because lead causes memory loss, causes all kinds of things. So, it's really important that you know that even if you're doing everything, right, eating healthy, we still live in a toxic environment. It's just our world today.
Even people don't realize, even when you watch TV, you watching us right now are absorbing energies and frequencies that aren't great for you. That's just the technology world we live in. So be conscious of that, and I always tell people, meet yourself where you are today. Don't beat yourself up, because the reality is you have to eat, you have to breathe, you have to go outside, you have to drink water, and the world we live in is convenient. Enjoy those conveniences, but balance them out with taking care of your body and using some things to help detox. And I know we've talked about this a lot with Ken and some of the modalities we offer. So all the things that we try to bring to you here at Give Me Some Green are just different ways that resonate with you on how to help you be the most healthy version of yourself possible. So as we go through these, right here what do we have with us? Articulo Correcto.
Yep.
And I look at this and I have no idea what I'm supposed to do with this.
Okay.
Can you help guide some of us through how to use some of these things?
Sure. So Articulo Correcto is, it's a combination. So we have about 30 different complexes, which are tested, tried and true, of a combination of plants. And this is something that's important to mention is, plants that are combined on many levels that sit on the shelf for a long time. The plants will start to interact with each other. So it is important that you have some level of knowing, some level of education around what happens when you mix 20 different plants together. So these are all tested, tried and true. They've been around for 20 years as far as that combination of plant. This one in particular, good for joints, muscle. These are dietary supplements, so you would actually put them in water. But what I'm finding from many of the doctors that I work with, they're actually using some of these directly. So somebody who has rheumatoid arthritis, for example, can actually put a couple of drops directly on their hands, and we're seeing big shifts from that.
And the reason that is your body, your skin is the largest organ you've got. And it's been proven that anything you put on your skin topically, you absorb everything in that product within the first 30 seconds. So think about all the hand sanitizers you're currently using, or the soaps you're currently using. So when you ask, where am I getting some of these toxins or these negative charges into our body, unfortunately, due to the life that we currently live, a lot of people are getting them from soaps and things. That's why sicknesses have gone up, and some of the other ailments, we've seen a lot more stress. Your body is trying to fight off all of these things that you're putting in. And again, this is not trying to scare you, it's trying to make you aware so that you can better take care and balance that out, and things like this can help you do that.
Absolutely.
So that's why putting them topically is so valuable. Not everything in the world can be used topically. So take that in. I mean, we have products here that are CBD you cannot use topically. They're meant to be ingested. So ask someone when you're going through this journey, whether you're working with Jen directly or if you're coming in here and working with us. Like I said, we're going to be bringing her back again to bring up different topics, but just be conscious of what you're putting on your body because it absorbs it like that. It's one of the fastest mechanisms we have. It's actually 80% faster than if you ingest it. And I think people think, oh, I didn't eat it, I just put it on me. It's actually worse. You're actually getting more of the toxins.
Yeah, and so one other thing to add here is because of these being the embryonic plant stem cells, they do bring an electrical frequency into the body. So that's something, the body is the most dense part of our whole system, if you will. And these actually go into the energetic system first before they go into the body. And that's where a lot of the out of balance is. So one of the things I learned in my healing training is that when we have an illness and it's hit the physical body, it's gone through all those other dimensions
first.
It's gone through, our belief systems, it's gone through our emotional body, it's gone through all of those bodies first trying to resolve itself, that out of balance before it hits the physical body. And so working with these, it actually works in those other levels as well. And so you're kind of realigning all of the dimensions of your person, if you will, your belief systems, your thoughts, your thinking, your emotions, your physical body, and your spiritual body. So it's working, it's bringing all of those into alignment. Now you have all four tires the same on the bus, on your car.
Right.
Yeah, and so everything is in alignment and running the way that it was designed to run. We are designed to be healthy by nature. That's who we are.
And if that doesn't make sense to you, think of all the times that you've spent stressed out. And over time, when you're if something traumatic happens to you and it stresses you out, and you carry that stress, do you ever notice you get sick shortly after, right? Or maybe you start getting pains in your back. Like first it started with stress at work, and then a couple weeks later, you got a pain in your back, and you need to see your chiropractor. But you didn't work out, and you didn't do anything to get that pain. This is what Jen is talking to you about. Enough of the here turns into here, and then turns into here. Does that make sense? So you get enough stress in your brain, it starts to affect your heart space because it creates unease for you, and then your body responds with disease. Is that
yes?
It's
exactly
the best way to say it.
That's the unfolding of the disease process. It's how it works.
It truly is. So when you hear us talk about this stuff, I know for some of you this is challenging. For some of you, you're going, "Oh my gosh, yes, you're speaking my language." Our whole purpose at Get Me Some Green and through these coffee talks, bringing in these specialty people, is to bring new information for you. Do not take my word. Do not take Jen's word for gospel. We are going to put some links in the bottom of this video. We want you to go and do your own research. Become your own health advocate. Feel what's right for you. At no time do I ever want to be the expert on anything, and I know Jen feels the same way. We just want to be the expert in bringing you the knowledge and showing you how to find it and solidify it for you. Because until you solidify it for yourself, a lot of this might seem different, confusing, or challenged for you. So please stay tuned. We're going to put those in the links so that you can follow them and do some homework. And of course, we'll always be here for follow-ups. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments. Even if we can't answer them live right now, we will get back to you, respond, and answer them. If there's a specific topic with regarding this you want us to touch base on, let us know, and we'll definitely bring that to you next month as well. So let's move on to some other things, because I know this one is a formula, and I believe the Sleep RM is a formula as well.
It is.
So you have some that are formula, and then some like St. John's Wort. I know a lot of us know St. John's Wort that are completely raw. What can you explain the differences? I know St. John's does some things, but you also have formulas that do the same thing. Why would someone use one over the other?
Yeah, so the reason that the complexes were created is because many people are not familiar with herbs and how they work. And so a complex is easy if somebody has an out of balance in their body. They can go take a complex and they don't have to think twice. Most of the doctors that actually work more intensively with the herbs will go toward the individuals, because they're working on something very specific and they know the plants and they know what the plant does. So a lot of the practitioners that I work with, they put people on biotherapeutic programs and they use the individual plants. So we have both. We do have some complexes that many of the practitioners use around allergies in particular. There's one called Be Healthy that is great for keeping your body healthy during flu and cold season and all the crazy stuff that's going on our planet right now. So it's really a matter of preference. One is not stronger than the other. It's just one is easier. It's got everything combined into one, and you can use that without having to know a lot about the plants. Okay. Versus St. John's Wort, you really kind of need to know the contraindications. You need to know, what it benefits, where it might not benefit. So that's really.
And we'll have a lot of that information for you here as well. I am not as versed as Jen, but she's helping me develop some programs and things that we can guide you towards the right tools for you as we grow our line of this product. So we'll be carrying a lot more of Jen's products as we grow. So let's talk about some more of these. So we've already talked about the Correcto, so that's good. And we talked about St. John's Wort a little bit. I would like to talk to you a little bit about, I believe we have elderberry here. And I know that is a huge buzzword. Elderberry, elderberry, elderberry right now. Let's talk about why is that so important, and why has it become such a big thing, and why this little bottle is just as, if not more potent than a lot of the syrups we've seen. Now, I know elderberry syrup for me is very sweet, and I have a hard time taking it in because it's all of the other things added to it for me just throw my body off balance. So let's talk about why elder is so important and what its benefits are today.
So elderberries become very popular because of COVID. It is like a huge immune booster. So it keeps the immune system strong. It's very well used for naturopaths and a lot of, herbalists in the wintertime so that you don't get sick. And so that's kind of like the big driver for it. The reason that I like it in the plant stem cell form is you're also getting that light, you're also getting the electrical circuits kind of realigning. And like you said, elderberry syrup can often be super sweet. There's honey and other things mixed into it to make it taste good. And sometimes, for me, that can be overwhelming to my body too. I don't eat a lot of sugar.
Yeah.
And so when I take elderberry syrup in the past, when I did, it was almost too sweet for me.
Yeah.
And it's something that to keep your immune system strong, it's not like you take it once and then that's it. You've got to kind of take it regularly. And that is something that is very different about plants than pharmaceuticals, is plants will accumulate in the body. So they have they don't accumulate, but they have a cumulative effect in the body. And so it's very different than a pharmaceutical. So
I compare it to water.
yes.
You drink water and it hydrates you. if you stop drinking water, you become dehydrated again. Follow me? So, but if you drink a gallon of water, it doesn't stay in your body, it dissipates. You have to consistently drink water to stay hydrated. So that's the best way that we can describe how stem cells work. Once you start taking it, it hydrates your body on a specific level, for lack of better words. When you stop taking it, that hydration goes away. So this is one of the things, and I know I talk to you guys a lot when you come in, that no human being should be on something forever. It's not a thing. However, when it comes to plant-based medicine, plants are energy, energy is our food, plants are food. So finding the right foods that fit you in the plant space is something that would benefit you forever. So think of it that way.
And these have what they call a half-life of about 5 hours, which means that when you take it, it'll stay in the body for about 5 hours. And so you take it 3 times a day. But again, over time, the effect of taking that plant, so for example, the allergy complex that I mentioned, it actually acts like you're getting allergy shots. So over time, if you take it, your body will actually become immune to the things that you're allergic to. And I've seen that. My mother-in-law moved in with us several months ago and is allergic to cats. We have 2 cats.
But
So
it's not something you take all the time. Your body
Yeah.
builds up that immunity
your body
naturally,
will build up the immunity.
and then you no longer need to take it other than a maintenance. So
Exactly.
let's talk about some more autoimmune disorders, because they are rampant right now. And I know one of our team members, and I love her dearly, she suffers from Crohn's. So how can plant stem cells benefit those? And there's so many of you out there right now that really have autoimmune disorders. So how can we address that community and help them out with things like this?
Yeah, so there are some in particular that are designed to treat each of the autoimmune. So for example, Crohn's, we've got fig, which is wonderful. We also have cowberry, which is wild cranberry. And so those are 2 for anybody who has Crohn's, has IBS, anything intestinal. Fabulous to come in and again, balance what's going on in the body, bring things back to its natural state. And once that happens, then the body knows what to do. And that's how you don't take these forever. It's like your body comes back to that state of wholeness, of everything being aligned, and then it can kick in and do what it's designed to do. We also have some for MS, betulinic acid, which sounds really scary. It's essentially the inner and outer bark of the white birch tree and also the husk of almonds. Those 2 things, you can go Google it, lots of information out there. It creates apoptosis in the body, but it also realigns the neurological system.
They're adaptogens.
Yes.
That's it. You want to learn something simple. I know Jen and I are using some pretty big words for those that haven't studied plant-based medicine in the past. Just look up adaptogens. I can even put a link to a great book, and I know Jen's got some recommendations, just great books that talk about plant-based medicines and how they can help. We don't want you to become the expert, we get that. We just want you to know enough so that you can feel what's right for you as you go down this journey. And I know we just said something that seems a little contradictory, so let me just circle back. There are some products that you have that help put your body back in homeostasis. Those types of products are not ones that you're going to need to take forever. Your body's out of sync. It's like tuning a guitar. You don't tune your guitar every single day. You tune it when it gets out of tune. So some of these products are used when you get out of tune. And then there's things you do to your guitar just for general maintenance. So when it comes to plant-based medicine and foods, there's both. For instance, we need proteins. We do need animal proteins. There are some people that are vegan, so they supplement with different kinds of protein. But you don't eat protein with every meal all the time, nothing but protein. You balance that out with fats, and you balance it out with plants. So it's the same thing here, and hopefully that makes sense. Again, if it doesn't, please let me know. I will address that in the comments, or Jen will address that in the comments, and we promise we'll get to you on that. But I just wanted to make that pretty clear. So when you talk about elderberry, this is the same. It's just a very hyper concentrated. So for those of you that like elderberry syrup and it's just too sweet or it's too much for you, just some of this would do fine. Now, what would be a serving of something like this?
So 10 to 15 drops 3 times a day, and you take these before meals.
So just drops, guys.
Just drops
Not
in
a
water.
big
You put it in
shooter.
a little bit of water.
Just drops. So how long would you say a bottle like this would last somebody?
It depends on how many drops you're taking, but if you're taking that 10 to 15, it should last you close to a month.
It's great, guys. I mean, so this right here, I know I've got a good friend that makes elderberry syrup. I've got a couple friends that make elderberry syrup, and they're all amazing people. Anyone that's in this realm is just, I've always found to be just really delightful and educational people. But I'll go through one of those bottles in 2 weeks, just because of the amount you need to take in order to get the same benefits. So I have another staff member. All of our staff members have suffered something that has brought them to the natural healing realm, and another one of our staff members had cancer, and he's come out of that on the other side. What would you recommend for someone that's come through the other side of cancer and needs something for healing and maintaining so that it doesn't happen?
Yeah, part of it depends on the type of cancer, but I, as a cancer survivor, I will be taking betulinic acid. It's a bigger bottle, but that is the one that creates apoptosis of unhealthy cells in the body. So I know that we all have cancer cells in our body, but our bodies, when we're healthy, take care of those and move those out.
It's interesting you say that, because I say that to people. We all have every disease on earth.
It's all in here.
You've already got every disease on earth. You have all of these things, but something triggers in your body where it can no longer manage those foreign entities, and that foreign entity takes over and wins, and that's when we start seeing massive diseases in that nature. So you have cancer cells, you have tendencies for diabetes, you have all these things, but your body's able to balance them based on what you do. You're the synergistic foods and movements that you make to heal it. So what are some other things, like right now, immunity is huge. So we talked about elderberry. What are some other things people can do for immunity? Because I'm going to say it, coronavirus is scaring the shit out of people. Like literally, people are petrified, and with due cause. I mean, anything that causes death and illness, I get it. How can we combat that using some plant stem cells? What things are you working with people? Because I know you see a lot of patients right now working with either COVID directly or COVID-related symptoms or illnesses. How are you helping that community?
Yeah, this is where I do use the complexes, because the Be Healthy is phenomenal for preventing the replication of the virus in the body, right? So some of these plants actually get that specific. They, if you get the virus, what happens, the virus starts replicating in the body. These plants will actually prevent that, which is amazing.
And are there studies to back some of that information?
Absolutely.
And that's what I want to make sure. When we talk to people, you guys, everything that we tell you, we can back with a study. And as a matter of fact, with Jen's help, I will put the link to the study she's referencing in the comments, so that, again, I want you to do your own research. It's so important. Please don't take our word for gospel. Again, I want you to do your research. I want you to look into this stuff. I want you to know it and feel it, and know it from more than one source. We have a lot of information, but I want you to gather it from other people as well, because validity comes in numbers, and I want you to understand that we're not just sitting here touting this. Our information comes from studies, our information comes from doctors. We're doing the research before we sit down and we bring it to you.
Yeah, and I'm very fortunate, because the supplier that I work with in Italy, the father is he's a biochemist, he's a chiropractor, he's got like 4 degrees, I can't remember the other 2, but they're all significant. And so we do a monthly webinar with him. And when coronavirus hit back in March here in the States, we had 2 months where he was walking us through, how these plants are supporting people, because Italy got hit really hard. They were the epicenter of corona in the beginning, and we've learned a lot from them here. So and they're back in isolation again. So we're in fascinating times right now.
We really are. It's crazy. So the Be Healthy is a little
Be Healthy, and then Bronco Modulato, which actually has eucalyptus in it, is phenomenal for keeping the lungs clear, because we know COVID was impacting the lungs significantly. But what's not really published a whole lot, but are studies coming out now saying that COVID is actually impacting the heart as well.
I did read that.
Okay, so it's having, this virus is having lasting effects on the body, and that's where, I want more data.
Danny, are you over there? Could you check? could you check to see if there's comments that Jen and I can answer right now for me? Thanks. We're just reaching out to our crew behind the scenes to make sure if you guys are commenting that if there's a live question, we can get to you right away.
Yeah, and just what I was going to add is that's where, I'm curious to see more data coming in to see that genetic shift, the genetic mutation, how these will come in and support with coronavirus.
It's really interesting because I know that I've worked with people that have taken plant stem cells in the past, which is great, and they talk about how their blood work was completely different through diet changes and things like this. So the science behind it is so much deeper than just hokey pokey, let's take some drops for a while.
Yeah, and just one thing to add is, this is well documented and researched in Europe. Europe is ahead of us in many, many ways from a natural perspective. And, when this first came out in 1957, it was called chemotherapy. And so well studied, Max Tato, Henry Pohl were two of the pioneers who discovered plant stem cells. And so, a lot of the research is coming from Europe.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it was plant stem cells that came out first, and then we started dealing with human plant stem cells, because these were out there first, and then it was, I can't remember the scientist's name, and maybe who discovered that after a baby's born, what's left in the umbilical cord and the placenta, all the stem cells there, which is why we started taking stem cells from. Now, I know when my children were born, I froze that stuff because I'm like, and I actually had a doctor call me and ask if they could use it for another patient. I said, no. Those are for we froze them cryogenically for our kids so that if they got disposed to something in adulthood, they would have their own infantile stem cells to help them heal.
Yes.
I know that sounds crazy. I know I sound crazy. But my insurance covered it, and y'all know if your insurance covers it,
do it.
Why not?
Right.
So, and it was really, really interesting because fast forward to my daughter was 4 years old, and she got hit by a swing, and it shattered her face. I don't think anyone understood how bad it was, but because on the outside it just looked like this little cut, but she actually dented in the bone on her face, and the entire tip of her nose had moved, and that kind of impact to her head threw her back against a brick wall. So she had some neuro damage, and she just was kind of off for a while, and I dipped into that store, and she healed like that. So there's a lot of information there, but I just want to point out plants came before what we started doing with humans, and I think it's a great idea if moms have the ability to store that infantile stem cell, but don't sell it and don't take it yourself. Save it for your child, because there might be a time that they really, really need that, like right now, actually.
Yeah.
Like the parents that have that and have stored it, now would be a good time to tap into that to protect your kids. But going back to stem cells from a human should be used by the human they came from. We are not designed to take in DNA from other beings. Don't even get me on the topic of milk, but when we talk about, like, I've even heard people say that, oh, I take shark stem cells. Again, this is a different biological being. We're not meant to do that. So do you have any opinions on animal stem cells? Have you heard about that or done any research on that as well?
I just a little bit, and I totally agree with you that mammal to mammal, we just don't have that compatibility. The body looks at it as a foreign substance. It doesn't do that with plants because we can absorb plants, and plants can come into our body. They work together with other mammals. There is still that, I don't recognize you, I don't recognize this DNA coming into my body. And so the body will still have a natural rejection of that. And that's where we get into trouble, and that's where autoimmune diseases take off, is when the body is constantly trying to reject and reject and reject. It's building antibodies, and then too many antibodies produce that autoimmune response.
And then, again, fast forward into where we are today. So I know a lot of people are wondering, where do they start?
Yes.
Okay, that was one of the things Danny's like, all right, so where does someone start when it comes to plant stem cells? I know right now I'm still learning a lot. So when you come in here, guys, and full disclosure, Jen is still teaching me. I'm still going through the calls that we have monthly. So I'm still learning a lot. I know that come January, we're bringing back our Zyto scans. All of these have been loaded into the scans, so we can actually scan you to tell you what you need to be on. But for those that don't have the accessibility to get that scan or talk to you directly, where's a good place for people to start?
Yeah, so we are in the process of redesigning the website to make it more informational. One of my passions is education, and I really like people feeling empowered. We're each responsible for our health, and my passion is teaching, educating, so that people have the information to do it. So that is a big piece of what we are putting up on the website. We can create a link,
and we are doing
provide that information to you.
We're
so that
linking
you have it.
all of this to her site, so that when you go on ours and you're looking at plant stem cells, a lot of that data and that educational information, we're sharing it on our site as well, to make sure that you're not missing any pieces, regardless of where you go.
And by first quarter of next year, I will have an app where you can key in the issues that your health concerns that you have, and it will come back and give you what options you have, whether
That's
it's a complex
fantastic.
or an individual plant. That's again one of my passions, is get the information out for people.
So it sounds like complexes are a great place to start. When you're
Fabulous.
first getting started, going with the individuals, unless you know exactly what they're for, but the complexes are good. So let's talk about some complexes, other ones we have here. We've got Sleep RM,
Yep.
Sleep Alpha, and I believe that's it, right? All the rest are,
Yeah.
this
So
one's not a complex, that's a straight up. So these are the three complexes we have today.
yes. So the interesting thing, Sleep REM and Sleep Alpha. Some people have trouble falling asleep. Some people have trouble staying asleep. That's what the differentiation is here. So
Yes.
Sleep Alpha helps you fall asleep, helps you go into that beta mode so you can sleep, and then Sleep REM helps you stay asleep and go into deep REM sleep.
Now
So
that's
that's the
something, these are dailies though. These are the kinds of things that you would take every day.
Well, if you were having trouble sleeping, yes. So yes.
Yeah, so those are dailies. So right now, these are the only complexes we have. I already know some of you are asking for the Be Healthy. I will make sure we get that ASAP. So we'll be placing an order for that and bringing that in. What's another good complex that you would recommend that we carry in a wellness facility like this to help support our clientele?
Yeah, the Bronco Modulato for sure. We've now changed the name to Breathe Easy. It is really, again,
What do you mean, Bronco Modulato? It's not easy to say. Does it just roll off the
all
tongue
these
for you?
Italian names. Deperado.
Modulato.
It sounds beautiful. But really, we're in cold and flu season, and so it keeps the respiratory system healthy. So, for me personally, I take the Be Healthy and the Bronco Modulato. I've been taking them since November, and I will take them probably through February.
Okay.
4 months. They're prophylactic. They will keep me healthy. I had a habit in my life of go, go, go. Christmas time would come, holiday season, boom, I would
Gotta
crash.
cook, gotta decorate, gotta shop, gotta wrap, gotta entertain. You know what I gotta do? Nothing. I looked at my husband, he goes, we gotta wrap all this, and I'm like, do we? They're in Amazon boxes. Couldn't we theoretically just put a giant bow around the Amazon box? And he goes, that's tacky. I'm like, the kids don't care about that. They just want to know what's in the stinking box. They don't care. Don't you remember as a kid, you would get these amazing gifts, and the only thing you played with was a giant box it came in? They don't care. They don't care. It's what's inside the box that matters every time. So I just watched a Bad Moms Christmas, and I was laughing my butt off, and I'm like, I'm boycotting Christmas and all that goes with it right now. Just decorate and enjoy the season. Don't be so stressed out by trying to be perfect, because you will never achieve perfection. You will never achieve perfection. To say you're trying to be perfect is a complete and total cop-out. Just be the best version of you, because perfection is absolutely unattainable, and it's way too stressful to try to live in that world. And if your mom is shaking her finger at me right now, Mom, I'm sorry, but the reality is perfection lies within. So That is beautiful. So sounds like I'm going to bring those two in. Another thing we see a lot right now is stress. So what's a good formulation? I mean, I know I have some individual things for stress.
Yep.
And the individual ones that I brought in are ones that I know about, so I can speak to them intelligently. But what's a good formulation for stress?
Yeah, so there are 3 that I use for stress: linden tree, rhodiola, California poppy. Those are kind of the 3
and we
big
do have
ones.
the California poppy in.
Yeah. Those are the 3 big ones that I use for stress. And it really depends on what the cause of the stress. Like chronic stress, I would use California poppy. Rhodiola, rhodiola supports the adrenals. So if you're in that fight or flight, which is a little bit different than normal daily stress.
Right.
So, those are the 3 go-tos that I have.
Do you have a formulation that has...
I do not have a formulation, but I am working on
That's
it.
her next.
I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's the next one. I think that would be really, really popular for us. So for anyone else out there, this is their first time meeting you, what should we end this with to make sure they're well informed, or what are some ways that we can send them off on their journey to learn more about plant stem cells and the benefits of them? Because I can't see a single person that would not benefit.
Yeah.
Oh, except for one question. What's a good age? Is there an age limit or any restrictions on using plant stem cells with children to elderly? Are there any contradictions, whether it be medically related or pharmaceutically related or age related?
Yeah, so I would say no. It's the dose that you would give. So under 2, I probably would not. Anything over 2, even a drop will have an impact for a child. I have about 4 veterinarians who use these on animals. So we are actually also looking at creating a specific line for animals. But many vets use them, so you can use them for pets. You just don't use the 10 to 15 drops. You would use more like 2 to 3 drops. So it's really around the dosage, not that you can't use these with children or with animals or with elderly.
Okay.
So that's the main thing.
Are there any contradictions using plant stem cells with medications?
Mostly no. The only ones that are more cautious are the heart ones. So Hawthorne, for example, which is an individual, is like Plavix. So if you're taking Plavix, I probably wouldn't take it, or I would take a much smaller dose so you could actually get off the Plavix if you wanted. So they are okay in 99.9% of the cases, but we do list contraindications on the website.
Awesome.
So if anybody has any questions.
In situations like that, guys, if you have some questions, I encourage you to talk to your doctors and let them know that you're going down the road of plant stem cells. If your doctor has questions, we can connect them with Jen. She works with all kinds of practitioners, clinicians, teaching them this, because everybody needs to continue to learn. And even doctors who've been through medical school for 10 years and have been practicing for 20 plus years, there's still areas of medicine they don't know. That's why it's called practicing medicine. We will forever be practicing medicine because there's still so much for us to learn. So she works with a lot of doctors, and as well as we do too. So when you have a doctor that is interested, they know that this is the journey you want to go down, but maybe they don't know. We can facilitate that knowledge and have studies for them to help bridge that gap and create a whole well-rounded team that's there to support you in your wellness journey.
Yeah, and so what I would leave you with is trust yourself, trust your body. Your body knows how to heal. Be your own advocate, your health advocate. Nobody knows your body better than you. And 3, nature is healing in any aspect. Even if you aren't, drawn to the plant stem cells, go stand outside, look at a tree, be in nature. We are missing that from our lives today. We're so caught up in the technology. We're so much locked inside. Go outside. It's healing on all levels of the body.
It's so true. Thank you so much.